A critical no call here that did not go the Knicks' way.
Now, referees are taught to look up high, then down low. That right there is a landing zone foul that most of the time when it's reviewed.
The basketball world is still talking about two moments from the third quarter of Game 5. Jalen Brunson pulled up from the top of the key for a three, and Victor Wembanyama stepped directly into his landing space. That rule exists for a reason after Zaza Pachulia's play under Kawhi Leonard in the 2017 Western Conference Finals led to a serious ankle injury. The standard here isn't unclear and it isn't left to interpretation. If a defender moves into a shooter's landing area and affects the landing, it's supposed to be ruled a flagrant foul. There wasn't any gray area, there wasn't any debate, and there wasn't a whistle. Brunson still knocked down the shot. Then he came down on Wembanyama's foot. His ankle visibly gave way, and he stayed in the game anyway. With 65 seconds remaining, Brunson buried the go-ahead floater. New York held on to a 94-90 win, finished the series 4-1, and ended a 53-year wait. The reaction from analysts came almost instantly. Tom Haberstroh pointed out in real time that the play fit the rule. Mark Stein later reported that the suspension implications would have been automatic if the correct call had been made. Bill Simmons had his own reaction, using words better suited for a very different publication. Three respected voices all looked at the same play and reached the same conclusion. The officiating crew never did. The argument is that, whether by design or simple positioning mistakes, the officials protected a larger narrative. A correctly called flagrant would have suspended Wembanyama, forced a Game 6, created another playoff broadcast, and kept one of the league's biggest young stars on the national stage. None of that proves intentional interference. It does, however, explain why the missed call happened to match the league's broader interests, and that's the uncomfortable part. Here's the detail that hasn't been discussed enough. That third quarter play carried consequences well beyond a single possession. Before Game 5 even tipped off, Wembanyama already had 3 flagrant foul points during the postseason. Those points included a flagrant 2 ejection in the second round for contact on Naz Reid. Under the NBA's playoff discipline system, a 4th point brings an automatic suspension for the following game. The play officials ignored in the third quarter, the same one analysts immediately identified would have been that 4th point. Instead, no flagrant was called. Wembanyama stayed on the floor in the 4th quarter. The Knicks closed the series without a Game 6 ever happening. Now, before getting back to that controversy, it's worth looking at what Brunson accomplished. Game 5 in San Antonio was exactly the kind of environment the Spurs wanted to finish the series and send things back to New York. The crowd inside Frostbank Center brought energy from the opening tip, and San Antonio fed off it. The Spurs jumped ahead aggressively, opened a 16-point lead, and held New York to just one made field goal in its first 10 attempts. Almost nobody on the Knicks could get going. Brunson was the exception, scoring 16 of New York's first 37 points while the rest of the offense struggled. That came even with Wembanyama piling up 5 first-half blocks and controlling the paint. By the third quarter, Brunson had already reached 40 points of the Knicks' 65. A number that barely seemed believable. Karl Anthony Towns dealt with foul trouble that eventually kept him on the bench for long stretches. New York had one player carrying the offense, and Brunson never slowed down. By the start of the 4th quarter, he had already reached 40 points with the game tied. He followed that by hitting the go-ahead floater with 65 seconds left. His final stat line was 45 points, a Knicks final scoring record, and the Bill Russell Finals MVP award. Now comes the part that still hasn't been settled.
So the formula is a point a minute.
Oh, Brunson, that hesitation. Brunson, the 2 stars. Brunson off the bounce, gets inside, leans in, right hand, and he banks it home. Sensational move from Brunson.
The physical side of Wembanyama's play was a constant throughout the series, but the moment everyone remembers came in Game 3 at MSG. On that play, Wembanyama brought Brunson to the floor with both hands, with one arm coming up toward Brunson's head as they went down. Richard Jefferson immediately said on the live broadcast that it looked like a flagrant 1. As Brunson got back to his feet, Wembanyama responded by laughing at him. The next morning, the league's head of officiating, Monty McCutcheon, met with reporters and confirmed that a foul should have been called. He explained that the missed call came down to officiating position, saying both officials were following the ball and nobody was in place to see the secondary contact. McCutcheon admitted the crew made a mistake. He did not upgrade the play afterward. No additional discipline was handed out. After watching all 5 games, very few people would argue that Brunson consistently received the benefit of the doubt in those close officiating decisions.
Another hot start for the Spurs. A lot of post wrestling going on down there as Hart comes up.
The handshake situation is a separate discussion, and it probably deserved more nuance than it got on social media. When the final buzzer sounded, Wembanyama headed straight to the Spurs' locker room instead of joining the handshake line. He didn't congratulate the Knicks or acknowledge any opposing player before leaving the floor. New York celebrated, while the area where the Spurs had been quickly emptied. It's understandable why some people gave him grace. He's 22 years old, it happened in his home arena, and it was the biggest loss of his career. Those are difficult emotions for any player to deal with. Michael Jordan wasn't always graceful after tough playoff losses early in his career either. Learning how to handle defeat with composure is something many great players develop over time. Very few 22-year-olds lose in the finals and immediately know how to manage every part of that moment. Still, the handshake line means more than just tradition. It's where players who spent weeks battling each other recognize the respect earned through competition. Many veterans describe it the same way. You look the team that beat you in the eye because that's part of the culture of professional basketball, not the mindset of simply walking away after a tough loss. Jordan did it after losing to Detroit. LeBron James did it after 2011. Nikola Jokic did it after 2024. The list of players who handled that moment well is long, and so is the list of those remembered for not doing it. What makes this more complicated is that it wasn't the first time. Earlier that same season, after losing to New York in the NBA Cup Finals, Wembanyama also skipped the handshake line. It's only 2 incidents, but repeated moments on that stage naturally draw attention. Looking strictly at the numbers, Wembanyama still had an outstanding series. He averaged 26 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 3.6 blocks per game. At 22 years old in his 3rd NBA season, he became the youngest player in finals history to average at least 25 points. He also led a San Antonio team that entered the season without realistic championship expectations to a 5-game finals against one of the most prepared Knicks teams in decades. None of that should be overlooked. His post-game press conference is where the conversation shifted. For most of the session, he answered questions with maturity. He admitted the margin for error was small, said the Spurs controlled stretches of the series but couldn't overcome mistakes that immediately cost them momentum. He also praised New York's veteran composure. Then one reporter brought up history. The comparison was that Michael Jordan didn't win his first title until his 7th NBA season. LeBron James waited until his 9th, and Jerry West spent most of his career before finally winning one. The list of players who handled that moment well is long, and so is the list of those remembered for not doing it.
I learned is the margin of error is very, very thin. Our domination stints are absolute. We absolutely dominated for most of the series, but our errors, our mistakes, are punished so hard that we can't have ups and downs like this. Appreciate y'all. See y'all. Never.
Many of the same analysts who doubted this team belonged on this stage will now spend the coming years watching a roster that pushed the eventual champions to 5 games continue to grow around its franchise player. Wembanyama said after the game that this was the biggest lesson and biggest learning experience of his life. That's the right place to start. Whether that lesson turns into real growth is something nobody can answer yet. As for Brunson, there's nothing left to prove from this run. He led his team to a championship while receiving little help from the officiating. He did it while dealing with repeated physical play from the opposing team's best player, who even laughed at him after one of those moments. He also did it while the basketball world continued debating whether someone his size could lead a team to the title. He answered every one of those questions. The Bill Russell Finals MVP trophy ended up exactly where it belonged. A championship banner is heading to Madison Square Garden, and somewhere behind those 5 viral words at the end of Wembanyama's press conference, whether they came from motivation, immaturity, or a mix of both, is a 22-year-old who now has the chance to define the next decade of his career. Either he'll prove those words right, or he'll remind everyone why moments like this stay with players. The basketball world will be watching either way. That alone says something about this series and the two players who ended up defining it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Which moment from this series stands out to you the most? Did Wembanyama's press conference exit sound like motivation or immaturity? And do you think the league should have retroactively ruled that Game 5 play a flagrant foul? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.